My friends, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Diner Talks with James. I'm James, and I'm pumped to be here kicking it with you. Y'all, if you're watching it on YouTube right now, my hat looking fire. But, I tell you what, for those of you that aren't watching it, that's okay. You'll see it on the Instagram sometime. But I'm pumped to be here with you all, kicking it in the diner. Slide into the booth. What do you have? You want some cinnamon toast? What do you need? Eggs Benedict? You feeling fancy again? I like that about you. Maybe you just want that classic. Give me 2 eggs. Give me some bacon. Give me a little hash browns. Whatever you need, my friends. It's a diner. We have everything from that to random T-bone steaks that nobody orders. But we're pumped to be here with you. And I'm pumped to be here with a good friend of mine who I have not seen in a number of years because A, our paths haven't crossed, and B, there was a pandemic. But I have been watching her, not in a creepy way, in a supportive way, in a holy shit, she's amazing kind of way. And I'm excited for you to get to meet her. And I'm excited to get to know her better as well with you. Her name is Jennifer Cassetta. She is a nationally recognized speaker, empowerment coach, and a self-defense expert, equipped with her third-degree black belt in hop-kee-doe. Hapkido. Are you kidding me? First off, that just sounds like a fun thing. It sounds like a children's game. You want to go outside and play some Hapkido? Sure, let's go, Rick. Anyway, but it's clearly more badass than that. I'm excited to ask her more questions in there. She's been teaching tens of thousands of women how to take their power back from predatory behavior and power up their minds, bodies, and spirits for over 2 decades. She's been kicking ass for 2 decades, probably more than that, really, because you kick ass for a while and then you realize you could charge money for it. But she's been featured on the Today Show, Doctors, Rachael Ray, featured expert on ABC, My Diet is Better Than Yours. She's taught Jenny McCarthy, Marie Osmond, Bethenny Frankel, and even Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia herself, how to kick ass while wearing their favorite heels. She's also just a dope conversationalist, and she's got a brand new book coming out called The Art of Badassery, and I'm excited for you to kick it with her right now. Shout out to Jenn Cassetta. What's going on, Jennifer?
Hi, James. That was the best intro ever. I'm so excited to be in this diner. You know, for years I've been watching you, and at some point I was like, is he ever going to invite me into the diner? And then when I finally got your email, I was like, yes. I'm so honored.
That's it. We had to time it with the book release. We had to help you out here. You know what I'm saying? Maximize.
I appreciate you.
No, I'm super, super pumped to have you in here. It is a long time coming, but know that you have been on the list. You didn't just get on the list. So much love, fam. Much love. Jenn, how you doing today? What's going on? You're out in California, right?
I'm in Santa Monica, Los Angeles, loving it, with some blue skies, and it's always 70 and sunny here, kind of.
Yeah, it gets a little boring out there.
It's totally boring.
It's like the best kind of boring though, because it's like at least permanently beautiful.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You cannot complain about the weather ever.
Yeah. Now, are you a Cali native? You born and raised in Cali?
No. I'm New York, just like you. The state of. I didn't grow up in Manhattan, but I grew up in a town called Mayapack, which is an hour north of the city.
Okay.
Yeah, but all my family's
River?
from Long Island, so I used to spend a lot of time there.
You got plenty of time on Long Island. Look at you. All right. There you go. How you doing? Mayapack, is that up the Hudson River or is that a little further west?
So it's the Harlem line if you take the Metro North straight up.
Yeah.
On the east side of the river.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful area of town.
Yeah. Well, growing up there, it's kind of boring, but now going back, I'm like, oh, it's pretty, and there's leaves and land and stuff.
You're right. Adult you is like, I get it. Child you is like, what am I supposed to do on Saturdays?
Get me out of here. Take me to the city. I remember being a little kid and all I wanted to do was be in Manhattan. I would dream that I had my own apartment. I had a vision of it. It was all white couches, white rugs, and I had a big German Shepherd. That was my dream as a little kid. I swear to God.
That was the dream. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Doorman saying, welcome home, Miss Cassetta.
Yeah, totally. Except that never happened, but okay.
Did you ever live in the city?
Oh, yeah, for 15 years.
Oh, shit. Okay.
went to school in the Bronx, where
Mhm.
you also I think you
You
worked.
worked at Fordham, right?
Yep.
You went to Fordham. I worked at Fordham. Yeah.
Right, right. So we have that in common too. Look at this.
Look at this. This is incredible. I
Look at
forgot
this.
that you grew up in New York, though. That's my bad.
Mhm,
That is so fun.
mhm,
You spent some time in the BX. Here's what I loved about Fordham's Rose Hill campus is that it's right next to Little Italy, the
mhm.
original Little Italy of the United States, really,
Mm.
is in the Bronx. And my favorite place,
Oh,
my
tell me.
favorite place on Arthur Avenue is I was walking down there one time and I walked past a place called the Bronx Athletic Club. Now the door was open. And you look into the Bronx Athletic Club, and let me tell you, Jen, there's not one athlete in this place.
I doubt it.
Not
I
one.
could
It's a bunch of Goombas in there wearing their white tees, playing cards, and I don't. Yeah,
velour
they're not
suits.
exercising anything other than their right to sit around and comment on the neighborhood.
I'm picturing velour sweatsuits.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yep,
100%. Yeah. I didn't
yep.
go in because I don't know if that's the kind of place you can go in without doing somebody a favor.
Right.
And so I really wanted to go in there. All I wanted to do was go in there and hear stories. So
I love it there. I mean, the best food, the best people watching. It's just so good.
it's so good. It
So
is
good.
so good. I
Yeah.
loved it. So that's amazing. Now, so since you are a fellow New Yorker, you'll get this. And
Mhm,
I don't know if you still partake, but
mhm.
in New York, obviously, you know your way around a diner. And so do you have a favorite late night guilty pleasure food or snack, or did you have one if you have decided to mature?
Yes. So so there's not a whole lot of diners out here in LA,
Yes.
right? It's not a thing here, but back home in Mayapack was, the diner, I can't remember, the Olympic Diner it's called,
Mhm.
and we would go there after high school parties or whatever, and my dish was always like the not a good poutine, but French fries smothered in gravy,
Yes.
the brown gravy with
Oh
cheese.
yeah. Mhm.
That's it.
The
Like
American, you go American cheese, you go mozzarella.
mozzarella.
Yeah, for sure. Come on. She's like, look at my last name, James.
Yeah, but that
Yes,
was the dish. Mm,
cheese fries with gravy is just a classic.
yeah,
Jersey
yeah.
likes to call them disco fries, but we don't talk about Jersey on this podcast, so it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Yeah, what is this disco fries? Duh. What a stupid name.
Stop trying to sound special, Jersey. Um,
Do you
uh,
hate
yeah,
when
no.
do you hate when people get confused? Like, I get this all the time, especially from my neighbor. "Oh, you're from Jersey. Oh, you're from New Jersey." I'm like, "I'm not from New Jersey." I get crazy about it.
It's the quickest way to set me off, I think. It might be the quickest way. It's the most irrational way also to set me off. I recognize that, but I don't want to
Right,
talk about that part.
right.
Yeah.
So funny.
I love this. So I love this picture of you as a young girl in Mayopack. All that
Mhm.
she wants to do is have a completely all white. I'm picturing like Scarface level, like granite everywhere, and a huge German Shepherd with the bark that could echo through the walls of the Sistine Chapel, and this is your dream. So along
This
with
is the
just
dream.
the vision of where you lived, what it
Mhm.
looked like, what did you want to be? What did you want to be
Mm.
when you grew up?
Yes, I wanted to be either a veterinarian because I loved animals so much, or a waitress,
Or a waitress? Great,
and that dream came true.
that one did.
Yeah, but when I was this little girl, I would play restaurant. I would play diner essentially,
Mhm.
and I would write out a menu of all the things I could cook, which was
Yeah.
like peanut butter and jelly and, root beer float or whatever. And this is so weird, but I had this little nightie, and I would wear this little nightie and my mom's candy heels. Any
Uh-huh.
women out there my age would know what candy heels were. And, like, how weird is that? And I would go around. This was in Montauk with my mom's best friend, and we would go there in the summers, and I would, like, serve people and play diner.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. We just got we just got Rome, who is nowhere near old enough yet for this. I think it's like a 3+ toy, but I was like, I'm buying it now. I don't care. And it's literally like a toy diner set where it's got like the receipts, it's got the right mugs, it's got the sugar, the glass sugar. Yeah, yeah. I cannot wait.
So good.
For him to get to work.
So good.
So you wanted to be a waitress. You said you wound up being a waitress or a server. Tell me, how did that come to be?
So when I was in college at Fordham, again, the dream was like, get out of the Bronx, get to Manhattan. Like the goal was Manhattan. It was like the streets were paved with gold there or whatever. I don't know what I thought, but so I would get jobs there. So at first, like hostessing at this wing bar, like sports bar that served wings. I would come home like reeking of that barbecue sauce or whatever. And then these Italian restaurants downtown, and I started serving, then bartending, hostessing, you name it, everything. I loved it. I loved the hospitality industry so much. And I would still be in it if this whole other life path didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were totally in it, right? I mean, you jumped around from restaurant to restaurant. You said you're hosting to serving to everything. This is a profession that teaches you the hospitality industry, and especially being someone who's face to face with humanity. You get to learn so much about the humans on this earth.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have some stories of some iconic individuals that you met. Are there any that jump out to you?
Oh, yeah. Well, so what a lot of people don't know about me is I also bartended in a hip hop nightclub. And my brother owned it at one point, and I was bartending there. This is probably tail end of college or after college. And, bartending till 4 a.m, smoking cigarettes, like total opposite of who I am now. And making thug passions. Have you ever heard of that drink?
I don't, but now I need to know what it is, what a thumb passion is.
Thug
passion. Great. Even better.
Alizé, that pink.
Alizé, yep.
And Hennessy. And you mix it together. And that was a thug passion. And that was like the most popular drink at the time.
Yeah.
Never heard of it since. But anyway, Missy Elliott, Mariah Carey, Pierce Brosnan, Reverend Al Sharpton came in and I served him. Like just completely random events and people that I got to, serve essentially. It was pretty cool.
That's amazing. And I saw where the list was going, and then we took a hard left with old Pierce there. And that was such a fun plot twist. As a comedian, we talk about the rule of threes, and you nailed the rule of threes with that. Where it's like pattern, what? So that's awesome. So were you into hip hop at the time? Like, are you still like, do you enjoy this had to be 90s era hip hop, right? So we're talking like really the golden age of hip hop, right? Biggie, Pac, Jay-Z. I don't even know, at that point there was so much beef between East Coast and West Coast. I don't even know if you played West Coast hip hop.
Really.
But yeah, so it's a lot of Nas, a lot of Jay-Z, a lot of incredible.
So good. And actually, quick story. I remember being in this club, not where I worked, but out one night on Canal Street. I think it was called the Canal Club. And this is like way back. And I remember dancing in the middle of Biggie, the Junior Mafia, and Jay-Z. And like that's a memory I will never, ever forget.
Hold up.
Isn't that amazing?
You were this may get personal quickly. You were dancing for them, or just happened to be dancing by them?
Just in the same circle.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That is it.
Mafia.
You just named a dream of mine. Like that would make me so happy. Like Jay-Z is the GOAT in my book, and Biggie's obviously up there as well. But
that was like when I was like, who is that other guy? Like Jay-Z wasn't like mainstream popular yet.
Right. Reasonable Doubt wasn't out yet, but even still Volume 2. Anyway, sorry, I'm not going to get into his discography right now. But that is so freaking funny. So you went from so were you doing that while you were also serving at these beautiful Italian restaurants where you're like, yeah?
Yeah. Well, that particular moment, I was still in college. I remember that.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to see photos at some point in time, just in case you were wondering.
Pleather. Just think pleather.
Pleather. That's all I need to know. I know there are no digital photographs from that time, but I'm gonna need to see something. That's amazing. So when you were little and growing up in Mahopac, you did you live with your mother and your father? Did you have any siblings? Like what did the household look like?
Yep, I'm the youngest of 3. I have an older brother and sister. Yeah, that's just life, and it was pretty normal. Mom and dad, great parents, like no big dramas.
Yeah, they were like, "You go ahead, you be a waitress. Go follow your dreams."
Yes.
Incredible.
You can be anything you want to be.
We'll pay $45,000 a year at Fordham for you to follow.
It wasn't back then.
It was not back then. You're right. When I worked there in 2010, it was 50, I think.
Now it's like 70 or something crazy.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Jesuits. So that's beautiful. You grew up in this in this loving home, and you go off to college at Fordham. What were you thinking of majoring in, or what did you wind up majoring in?
Honestly, I'm like the worst person when it comes to career advice or anything like that, because I had zero plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue. I wound up just doing marketing because it felt very versatile.
That's true.
But other than that, I really didn't know.
Yeah. You didn't
Did
know.
you?
I did, but I'm not doing that anymore. So that's kind of funny where it's like, I did know, but then I'm not doing it. Like I wanted to be, I have a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. I chose my school because University of North Carolina, Wilmington is at the time that I went to school at UNCW, it was the 3rd or 4th in the world best marine biology program.
Wow.
And I wanted to go to school by the ocean. The ocean is kind of the closest I get to church. And so I just wanted to be close to it. And obviously also what I studied that made sense too. So, but that's what I wanted to be the next Jacques Cousteau.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's
what
amazing.
I wanted. Yeah. Which is funny when you think about it, Jen, because back then what I wanted to do is I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau because I wanted to educate and entertain people about something that mattered to me.
And which is what you're doing.
Which is fascinating, right? So it's like the nugget, like it wasn't marine biology, it was the nugget underneath it, but marine biology was the only way that I saw it at that particular time in my life.
That's interesting. Yeah. And I can relate. Marketing, I mean, I'm always marketing myself essentially, but then afterwards, the whole serving in the hospitality industry, the through line for me now is I like to serve. I like to serve people just in different ways, right? Now I'm serving more knowledge versus food and drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. And instead of smoking a pack a night with the junior mafia, you got a Peloton behind you. Same. Yeah. So to walk me through, then you get this marketing degree, you're hustling in college, working in nightclubs, and then you're a server. What happens after that? When did a transition happen?
I had like a series of jobs, and I want to say about 3-ish that were like out of school. What kind of job can I get? And it was like assistant to a radio buyer, like media buying. That was one. Then I went into these smaller design agencies and just kind of was an assistant for the owners. And then randomly I met this person who owned an event space in a loft downtown Manhattan. And him and his wife owned this loft, and we're going to create this beautiful event space. And I was like, ooh. And he's like, will you do the marketing for it? And I was like, sure. So I left that last job, went there. And that's the period of my life where everything kind of blew up, everything shifted and led me on this new path. Shall I
Please
continue?
go. Let's go. Dive right in. I want to hear, but you can't leave me with a cliffhanger.
I know. So I spent months working with this couple and getting ready to launch the event space.
Yeah.
September 10th, they have their first event, 2001. And
September 10th, 2001.
Correct. First
Great.
event. The next morning, I'm ready to show up for work. And I lived on 96th Street at the time, took the subway all the way down Wall Street, got up, looked up, and there's black smoke coming out of the World Trade Center. And obviously, it was a traumatic day, pretty chaotic, trying to figure out what to do. I somehow made it the 3 blocks to Rector and the West Side Highway where I was working. And I remember the doorman kind of like freaking me out, like, you can't go upstairs, this and that. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, the subways are closed. I'm like, well, where am I supposed to go? So he's like, I don't know, but use the phone in the lobby if you want, because, cell phones weren't working.
Yeah.
So I barely remember. I called my mother and she tells me the story because I can barely remember making the phone call. And because within seconds, the first tower fell. So all these people started rushing into the lobby. I got thrown, the phone went flying. Got pushed into this closet with a bunch of strangers. And for my first time in my life, that paralyzing fear kind of took over my body. So it was just like, whoosh. I remember crying. I remember thinking, I'm going to die. Like, this is it. And I guess I wasn't breathing. And then this woman came over to me and she took me by the shoulders and shook me and asked me my name and took a big deep breath. It's like, Jennifer. She's like, Jennifer, I'm Nancy, and you and I were going to get out of here today. So sure enough, we got kicked out of that building. And for hours, to make the long story short, went building, looking for shelter, found another building, second tower fell, had to get kicked out of there too. And so hours later, I took Nancy to the martial arts center that I had just started training at. I'd been training there probably close to a year, I think, by then. And we walked in, covered in ashes, looking, I'm sure, like zombies. I remember 2 of my instructors were there and, just anyway, the whole thing was like crazy, right? And was able to breathe and calm down and watch TV and take a shower and drink water. All those things helped me feel more safe. And that became this big metaphor for the next months, years, that like all I wanted to do was go back to this safe place. So that day, obviously, I got out of there and was able to go to my sister's and then eventually leave the city for a couple of days to regroup. But all I did in that time afterwards was like go to this dojo where like I started to feel good and strong in my body, more confident in my mind, spiritually started to feel more grounded, more purposeful. And that kind of took on this life of its own. After a while, I was still bartending at night to pay the bills. But in the daytime, I was like almost like addicted, but in the best way, to this feeling that I was getting from the martial arts training.
Jenn, I knew that you had a 9/11 story. I did not know your 9/11 story. That is incredible. That is horrifying, gut-wrenching, and with this beautiful end. But what a moment. You're describing some of the intersections of where the building that you went into to try to make the phone call, where your work was, and not far at all from the towers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had to feel like the earth shake when it fell.
Yeah. And I think that's
whether it was registering that,
right. And that's the thing. Like, I definitely had PTSD, right? Afterwards, anytime I heard a low flying plane or a garbage truck or, these loud noises, still to this day, I kind of jump out of my skin, to be honest. Like, I'm not going to fool anyone. Obviously, the martial arts helped me drastically and moved me through that time and that period, but there are still little effects today. The thing is, for someone, and I don't know if anyone out there can relate to this or you can relate to this, James, but when you're in one of those like horrible, horrible traumatic events, and you made it out okay and pretty unscathed. Like for years, I didn't even talk about it or think about it. Like I just was like, oh, I am totally one of the lucky ones. I have no business talking about this. I have no business like crying about it or feeling bad about it, you know?
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago when I'm like developing my keynotes and thinking about what my story was, my origin story, right? Most people don't think about that unless you're a public speaker or have a brand or something. And that I was like, oh, yeah, like that is a major part of my adulthood life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get it, both as just someone, not because I've had an experience remotely similar to that, but I can conceptually understand that idea of like all these people lost their lives.
Yeah.
I'm here today. Who am
Yeah.
I to share anything?
Right.
Right. Like I think about it a lot in terms of my privilege, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a white, like I don't like my birthday, right? Like I'm like, you're a white man in America who was raised with more than enough. What are we celebrating every year? Right. If you didn't
Aw.
survive, like, you know what I mean? Like that's a very small version of it, but
Yeah.
obviously not at all trying to compare the two. But
Okay.
so in hearing what you're saying, it conceptually makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it has had to have been very powerful to, I mean, it's essentially reliving, unpacking, and redescribing,
Mm.
resitting with some trauma.
Yeah.
And that's wildly hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a part of that day that I have no recollection of. I literally walked from Soho to my sister's apartment on 55th Street and cannot remember 0, like 0, 0, 0. Can't
Yeah.
remember it at all.
Yeah. Where's the dojo? Is the dojo in Soho?
It was at the time. Now it's in Brooklyn, but World Martial Arts Center, it was on Broadway in Houston, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, also not that far. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you said that your mom can remember because you're on the phone with your mom when you got pushed into the closet, right? So
Yeah.
mom just all of a sudden is like, "What happened to my baby?"
Yeah. Oh, she just heard screaming, like, "Get down, get down, get down." And so she thought there was like a terrorist, like with like gonna shoot us or something. Like that was
Yeah.
going through her head. But she says that when I called her, I first of all called her mommy and like in a really childlike voice, which is bizarre, right? Because I don't call her
Yes.
mommy and I definitely don't talk in a baby voice. So that was weird. But that's what happened.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
That I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm always appreciative of anybody who's willing to talk through their trauma, but never expect it.
Yeah.
And so thank you. I mean, I think obviously anyone born before, I don't know, let's
Yeah.
say 98, maybe 90, 97,
Mhm.
can pretty much remember 9/11 in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, I was one of those people trying to call people in the city because
Mhm.
I was in the university in North
Right.
Carolina at that time.
Okay.
And so I was trying to call my dad, who had worked, used to work in one of the towers, was not working in the towers at at that time.
Oh,
But
wow.
he
Thank
used to
God.
work in one of the towers. He was still working
Mhm.
in the city. He was trying to call my uncle, trying to call my brother,
Mhm.
and just couldn't get through to anybody.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it's incredible. My brother at the time lived in Brooklyn, and he took a picture of his balcony that was
Mhm.
covered in ash and just like
Wow.
random papers. Um,
Mhm.
and that's however many miles away. He
Yeah.
didn't live like right across the river. He lived decently deep into Brooklyn.
Right.
And so yeah, I think, I mean, for our generation, everybody knows where they were
Right.
on September 11th, 2001.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, you had, oh, go ahead, please.
Well, and yeah, and as hard and as difficult it was, again, for me personally, and I know there's so many people out there that really nothing good ever came of this for them, right? And
Yeah.
it's a lot of loss and grief and tragedy. For me personally, looking back, I can see how it changed the course of my career, how I like fell in love with martial arts and the feeling that I was getting, and then wanting to share that with as many people as possible. That's how literally the journey started, not consciously at the time, but only looking
Yeah.
back, can I figure that out and connect the dots?
Yeah. That was, I mean, the strongest word that you shared was safety, right? Like
Mhm.
that is where you felt safe. You went there that day and then you just needed to keep going back to that place.
Yeah.
Just the power, right? I mean, the bottom of the pyramid for Maslow, right? And yours was in that dojo,
Yeah.
which is crazy, and beautiful that you found it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you had mentioned that you had started going to martial arts a little bit before this. What catapulted that interest? You know, at what point were you like, I think I'll check out martial arts?
I know, it's so random. It feels random, except my dad had been doing martial arts. He had been doing taekwondo. He started in his 50s.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, yeah. And my dad has like amazing transformation story, but essentially just picture a guy from immigrant Italian family that grew up in the Bronx, who then became a detective in the NYPD, but when I was born, he pretty much left that and got into a different career and was always working on self-development, always trying to better himself, um, deep into nutrition, fitness, took care of his body, on this just always like soul-searching journey, which I thought was so cool especially coming from his background, right?
Yeah.
And so in his 50s, he got into martial arts, and I saw the transformation that went from like super tough hothead kind of guy to
Uh-huh.
more, like more deep and more he already had a spiritual side to him, but it just changed. It was just different. And
Mhm.
I all I my original like my original curiosity for trying martial arts was more for the fitness part. Oh, let me try this thing to get fit. I'm
Yeah.
bored of the gym. And then and then obviously it wound up being so much more that people and friends like joke that I was in a cult. That's how
Mhm.
like often and how much time I spent there.
I hear about that from a number of friends. I just
Mhm.
got to spend a couple of nights with my friends down in North Carolina who are deep into Taekwondo. Also, I believe he is also a third degree or fourth degree black belt, and
Awesome.
just the way that he talks about it, it truly is a wee bit cultish,
Yeah.
but in a real, but it's community, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
passion and community, and a community that makes you feel safe, and a community that welcomes you.
Yes.
I mean, that's what cults do. So,
And James, I have to say, like, I'm that person that I'll be watching like that what would that show on Netflix? Wild Wild Country. And I'm like, "Oh, this is such a nice cult. I can picture myself in it." And then, it winds up going completely
yeah,
bonkers and sideways, but, like, in the beginning, the cults are always so nice.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, always well intentioned, and then power creeps in. I love that. So after 9/11, we dive in deep into and we join this cult. No, we join you dive in deeper into this community. You become passionate about it. You're working your way through the belts and the levels and the et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And at what point does that transition into something that is, something that you want to do as a career or something when does it become something bigger?
Yeah, yeah. So pretty much that year after September 11th, um, obviously I had to pay bills, so I was bartending, and then I got a job to manage a nightclub. Did that for a
Mhm.
year.
I love this time in your life.
Right? It's so bonkers. It's so weird. So it was totally like dichotomous, like this nightclub life, and
Mhm.
then I was like in a uniform and like tying my belt and bowing, like so different.
Yeah.
So finally I was like, okay, I need some alignment, somehow just this is not working. So I decided to become a personal trainer.
Mm.
I said, okay, I can, take these skills that I have and transfer them to being a personal trainer. So I went to a gym, got a job, and then within a year, I was like, I don't want to work for a gym ever again. So I basically just started my own private practice in Manhattan. And
Mhm.
another way to really learn about people and, like from the hospitality, now all of a sudden I'm in people's homes, like very wealthy people's homes. And,
Mhm.
like just, I don't know, I was always just so fascinated by it.
Sure. You got to be in your all white New York apartment with the German Shepherd.
Except it was in Chinatown. It had roaches and mice, and And there was no white carpets.
You got to see other people's white apartments and
Yes.
and have them do burpees on them.
Exactly.
I love that. And I've been inside a Chinatown apartment that looks like the one you described too. I recorded some verses in that. So we go into personal training, which is a cool way where you're starting to find a little bit more alignment than nightclub, Jenn, to getting into mind, body, spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Loved it. And then from there, just knew that nutrition was a bigger part of the equation. So went back to school and got a health coaching certificate, went back to school later, got a master's degree in nutrition. But for a period of 10 years, I was in that dojo every day and then running around the city to train my clients essentially. And in the background, doing lots of this self-development work for myself, for myself, not on myself, but like going to Tony Robbins events and landmark education and all these different, I know what you're going to say.
All these different cults. Yeah, no. Right. Because so many people, like, I've been to a landmark event. It feels real culty. It is not a cult. I know that it's not. Tony Robbins, in the moment, you feel like a cult, right? You're like, let's walk across the fire. Like,
yeah, why not?
That's right. It is hella culty.
Totally. Coles. So I walked on Coles. I jumped off this in his Fiji resort. And mind you, back then, I did not have money, right? But I would spend like, 10 grand? Yes, let's do this. Like,
Fiji? Got it.
Yeah, let's go to Fiji. And we were like harnessed to these like 50-foot telephone poles and then had to like jump off to try and catch a trapeze, like just all kinds of stuff. Very different than nightclub Jenn, but very fun as well in a different way.
I mean, I've been in some nightclubs with some trapezes, but but still, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Cages, James.
Yeah, cage, yeah. Yeah, I've been in those too. So so you get somewhat addicted to personal development.
Yes, always been a self-proclaimed junkie. And again, I got that from my dad. My dad had the Tony Robbins cassette tapes playing in the cars all the time. Dale Carnegie, like I was familiar with all these names. Wayne Dyer was a big one in our house. So yeah, I just kind of took it on, ran with it.
That's so fun.
How about yourself?
The drip started early for you with some of the motivational speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Did you have that as well? Like what? You're a motivational speaker now. I mean,
I am. Yeah.
Did you listen to a lot of them? Did you do that kind of stuff? Or
I didn't at all. No, I didn't hear my first Tony Robbins talk until I'm gonna say like 4 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I still have not seen him live.
Yeah.
I was going to a UPW. Is that his Unleash the Power Within? Is that 3 days? That's the 3-day one down in Boca Raton. I had it on my calendar, was scheduled to go in 2020. And so and didn't, obviously a little pandemic came through. So I've done some of his online things here and there. But I just want to go. I want to go and do one in person. I want to see it. And be in it. So I'm
let me know when you go. I want to hear your experience.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. I'm happy to nerd out with you about it. But yeah, I mean, as far as my journey with some of those kinds of things, I came up through the comedy world. And that was kind of my exposure to getting on stage and what being on stage was. And that's, I've watched comedians and whatnot. I still watch comedians. I think comedians have made me a better speaker in a lot of times. Some of the speech, especially some of the newer comedy specials, kind of border the line between motivational speech and comedy, right? You look at some of the Hannah Gadsby stuff, Douglas. You think it's some of Hassan Minaj's stuff, some of that where they're doing some teaching in there,
Right.
whether it's about culture or it's about autism or it's about
Mhm.
whatever. It's kind of fascinating to watch the way those worlds are blending a little bit. And now
Oh, cool.
Brene Brown has a Netflix special, right?
Right.
Where she just does an hour. And I drank the Kool-Aid from Brene Brown pretty quickly because
Okay.
she and I were talking about very similar things.
Mhm.
Daring Greatly came out just before my book did.
Mhm.
And so we're both talking about authenticity and vulnerability. Obviously, Daring Greatly a lot about shame.
Nice.
But watching her TED Talks is something that kind of, I would say she was one of the first speakers that kind of really ramped me up in that way.
Mm.
The speakers that I saw before then all didn't look like me, didn't really
Mhm.
kind of have my background and so that's one of the reasons why I never charged for a while in the beginning. Because
Wow.
I didn't see myself, I was like, well, I don't deserve it, right? Like, who am I? I didn't
Wow.
start from the bottom. Now I'm here. I didn't lose a leg in
Mhm.
Nam. I didn't kill friends in a drunk driving accident. I didn't
Right.
have this crazy story. I was just
Right.
like, who wants to pay me to cry about on stage and tell jokes about when I was homesick in college?
Right. Right.
Turns out, Jen, big market.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I learned it. But at the time, I just didn't think I deserved it because it was like, what are you getting paid for? You don't deserve that.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
so I didn't,
That's an awesome lesson.
yeah, I didn't follow a lot of speakers. And then once I joined an agency that you and I were both a part of for a while, and went to some conferences, I then
Mhm.
started watching a lot of speakers. I started watching a lot of TED Talks, watching a lot of commencement speeches. And
Mm.
to this day, I still love commencement season. I
Do
love
you?
seeing what different actors say, or presidents, or first ladies, or former whatever.
Right.
It's a cool, yeah. I soak some of that up. I watch more motivational speakers now than I've ever have in my life.
That's awesome. And I need to take a page out of your book because I always say I need to do that more and I haven't. But anyway, back in my 20s, that's what I was doing a lot of.
Yeah. Which is great. I mean, you were a sponge, right? And what a great time of life to do that too, because you
Right.
finally realize that, I mean, whatever the social survival skills that are needed in high school and middle school and stuff like that, like you just kind of, it's very insular. But
Mhm.
then the 20s are this really cool time to think about, like, okay, what matters?
Right.
Like, why does that matter? What do I want
Yeah.
to do? Who am I? Where do I fit? What am I, like, what am I going to do here?
Right.
So I think that makes a lot of sense that it happened during that
Mhm.
time. And then
Yeah.
you yourself are now one of those people that other individuals can turn to, can watch, can soon read,
Mhm.
and consume. How does that feel now that you are and I don't necessarily know if you call yourself a motivational speaker, but you certainly do motivate people. The term motivational speaker sometimes comes a little, not everybody loves that word term because I
I
picture
don't
Chris.
mind it.
I don't mind it either.
Mhm.
But a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Chris Farley, where's your van? Which river? And, um, and so, but,
Down by
uh,
the river.
yeah, exactly. So how does it feel to now be that person that someone else can listen to with their dad in the car while they drive around?
Oh gosh, that honestly melts my heart, that picture that I just saw. Um, Honestly, I'm honored. It's like such an honor. Anytime I'm like handed a microphone, anytime someone reads my Instagram post, like I find it such a privilege and an
Mhm.
honor. I don't really have words for it, and I don't even think that many people do listen or read my stuff yet. But yeah, I love it. I'm excited for more of that, but also, we have to remember, like, we're taking up space, and so I definitely am more careful with what I say. I'm more intentional with my words, especially putting anything out there in the metaverse. What do you
Yeah.
like? Interwebs, whatever. Like, I'm just trying to be as intentional as I can. And as you can imagine, I know you wrote a book, so you know that. Like now going through the third proof and the fourth proof and the final proof, I don't wanna do it anymore, like, I'm sick of reading my own
This damn book.
chapters,
Yeah.
but now I'm, like, almost, like, nitpicking because I don't want anyone to misconstrue something that I said or get triggered by something I said, you know, and it's, like, it's almost too much right now.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, you can definitely start to drown in it.
Yeah.
And it makes you question so much of what are we doing here?
Right. Right.
And yeah, especially a little bit, let's talk about the culture that we're in right now too, where it's just the microscope has gotten bigger for the people on this earth, right? More people are under the microscope.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky time.
Yeah.
Um, but
It's
at
a
the
little
same time, you
scary.
have to write something with an angle, with direction, with purpose, with an audience in mind. Because if you just try to write something for everyone that no one's going to ever be upset about,
Right.
then no one's ever going to read what you want to write, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
so yeah, so it's a fascinating line to walk. Now,
Yes.
you talk. A lot of your talks are about self-defense, about women's empowerment, about standing in your greatness. And I'm curious, when the first time I ever got to see you speak, you took off your heel and showed me how I could stab someone with it. And
Really?
and just show me how how I wasn't wearing heels at the time. But still, like, it's just like the first time I ever watched you do was about again, it's about safety. It's about
Yep.
for protecting yourself.
Yeah.
And when did that, martial arts is about what to do. Not all martial arts, most martial arts are about what to do if you are attacked. Right. And there are some that are more offensive, but most I feel are a little more defensive. Feel free to correct me because you're deeper in that world than I am. But
Okay.
the and so I can draw the corollary of like, well, here's something that I love, and I also love this, and what's the thing that connects the two? Self-defense. Is that how you did it? Or was there a moment at the nightclub at one time where martial arts really did help you?
Well, there's two answers to that, and briefly, like, well, the thing that's coming up for me is back in the day, like almost after 9/11, right? In that following year, I was grabbed on the street, uh, walking home to my apartment late at night, yada yada, guy's hands up my dress, and I was wearing heels that night. So I turn and face my attacker. And this time, instead of that freeze, that shutdown, I went into like full she beast mode and, started doing all these things that I now teach, taking up space, flailing my arms, making myself loud and big and alpha, like,
Yeah.
how dare you F with me? And, I can remember his face in that moment going from like, to, oh, damn. I just messed with the wrong
Yeah. Yep.
person. So he took off running. I chased him down the street wearing my heels that night. Luckily for both of us, I did not catch him, and the heels impeded my running. But that again, like, led me even deeper into the martial arts.
Yeah.
And when you said most martial arts is about defending, I immediately went, no, no. Martial arts was like a way of life. I know not to sound too corny, but
No, please
it's
do.
not just about the physical movements. And that's the whole through line through everything I teach and speak on now is it's not the kicking and the punching and it's the confidence, it's the attitude, it's the self-empowerment that we all have access to. We all can use our voice. We can all stand up for ourselves. We can all stick up for other people that can't stick up for their own selves too. And that's really what I learned.
Mm.
Those are like leadership skills, I would say. And
Yeah.
now they're in my programs and my book and my keynotes, and that's the through line.
Yeah. I'm so glad you pushed back on that because that makes a lot of sense to me.
Mhm.
And it's just a cool moment of, what I see, what I hear versus
Yeah.
what it's like to actually be in it.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
messaging and the mantras and so that's beautiful. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the, the work that you get to do right now, what would you say your goal is? Like if an audience member were to come up to you, a fellow woman came up to you at the end, what's your dream thing? Like what would you love for them to say to you? Or if they were to reach out to you a month later and be like, hey, I've been sitting with what you said, or
yeah. Well, not again, what's coming up for me right now is things that women have said to me that mean the most. And not that I want this to happen because I wish it would happen less, but so many women will come up to me after an event, whether it be self-defense or the art of badassery or whatever it is, and tell me like, yeah, I was in an abusive relationship, or I was attacked and I'm that 1 in 3 women, and I was in a domestic violent relationship. Like the amount of times I get that, again, it's heartbreaking. And at the same time, like when they say that my words mattered to them and that they feel more powerful or they feel more confident because of what I just said, or they just feel like they can share that. Like so many women have told me that this is the first time they're even speaking up and sharing this. I was at a realtor conference once and a woman literally stood up in the middle of my talk, by the way, didn't ask anyone for comments or anything. And she stood up and told the entire group that she was raped during hosting an open house. And like everyone was just like the floor dropped out beneath us. And she said, this is the first time I'm ever saying this out loud, because she wanted to share that lesson, that gift with us. Right. So again, like I hate hearing it, but at the same time, oh my God, what a gift.
Yeah. Yeah, what a gift indeed. I think that's the perfect word for it. That you give to your audiences.
Well, I don't mean my gift to them. I mean the gift hearing that back, like
yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I'm the one telling you that you're a gift though. So I know you're not going to say it because you're a good person, but I'll tell it to you.
Thank you.
So confidence is a fickle beast from time to time. I think Tina, my wife, talks a lot about confidence, and she talks about how for women, confidence should be a team sport. And it's really beautiful the way that she talks about it. And she frequently asks people, how would you define your relationship with confidence? And she pulls answers from the audience. One of my favorite ones that she has heard is she's like, remember that Facebook status? It's complicated. Like, that's my relationship. Like, an audience member told her that. And I was like, I feel seen right now, because confidence is, it is something that I have an interesting relationship with. I am not a alpha male.
No?
And have never really been one, and have therefore had my masculinity called into question and called my own masculinity into question, and what is good enough, what is man enough, what is man, right? And no matter what, I call it into question. No matter what is going on internally, I'm still a man. And so when I step into a space, a lot of assumptions are made, especially as someone who's 6'3", large dude, beard, right? Like, certainly not hiding masculinity. So there's a privilege, right, when I walk into a space that women do not have. And so teaching confidence to women is incredibly powerful, because they don't just have to get over what's going on internally. They also have to get over what's going on societally, where I just have to get over what's going on internally, or work through, not get over, work through. Let me use the right terms here.
You just summed up the whole intro of my book, by the way. Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks so much for coming to the talk. This is Diner Talks with James. Check out The Art of Badassery by Jennifer Cassetta. Y'all take care. So
that was amazing.
Well, great. I hope validating as well. So with that being said, what are some of the first steps in starting to claim, step into, use words that you would use there into your confidence?
Sure, sure, sure. Well, I'll just go through the book, kind of the first step in the book, since you just said what the intro was. But yes, like women, we have this backdrop of stuff that we have to deal with collectively, right?
Mhm.
So whether you're not maybe the 1 in 5 or the 1 in 3 or the someone that is, that you could be one day, like there's just this other thing going on. But besides that, the first step in the book, so the book goes just like you said when you were referring to it before, you move up through the colors, the different belt colors.
Mhm.
That's how the book is laid out. So each
Oh,
chapter is
cool.
a belt level. So white belt is chapter 1, and obviously the last chapter is black belt. So white belt is all about embracing the suck. And essentially, we move through life, as you know, and I believe that we all start with all the power, all the confidence, all the stuff that we need. But as we move through life, it gets chipped away little by each bully, disappointment, grief, failure, you name it. And then sometimes, especially as women, we even give it away. We give it
Mm.
away unconsciously, sometimes consciously, to people, places, and things that don't deserve it. So kind of that first step is kind of, like I said, embracing the suck, knowing that, like, okay, you've been through really hard times before. They're going to happen again, but let's kind of strip down all that stuff and get to the core of who you really are. That's kind of the first step,
Yeah.
right? Does that resonate for you as a 6'3" male motivational speaker?
I mean, it sounds like acceptance, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
accepting of like, here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. Like to go back to our Jesuits, cura personalis, meet the person where they're at. Right. But meet yourself where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Yeah,
of us.
exactly.
Yeah. I'm not good at that. Right. Cause I'm over here looking at so-and-so being like, oh, look at him. I should look at her. I should look at them. I should. Right. Like I
Mm-hmm.
should on myself a lot.
Yes.
And as opposed to, I then it's in saying should equals shame a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. And
Mm-hmm.
so if they are there, that means I should be ashamed that I am here.
Right.
And
Right.
that's not kindness.
Yeah. And again, to go a bit deeper, I feel like embracing also the suck of your past,
Mm,
right? Because that's where usually, like, if we're not feeling confident today for some reason, it's probably a program that we took on when we were younger because something terrible happened, or, as we move through life, like I said, that confidence gets chipped away little by little. So just like being okay with whatever has happened in your life, and not that you have to be excited about it or celebrate it,
yeah.
or even get on a stage in front of thousands of people and share it, but just like, hey, like these are the things that happened to me, and I'm probably stronger because of them. And then so that next step is like taking that list. I call it your greatest shits list, like going through your past and like naming all the shitty things that have happened.
Yeah.
And then pulling through your secret weapons from them. So the things that you've developed as a result of moving through those challenges versus in spite of them. So some people can, secret weapons can look like empathy, perseverance, leadership qualities, generosity, flexibility, humility, right? There's just
Yeah.
so many.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
That's
step one.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
badass.
Thank you.
And yeah, and then we take people through that from that newly cemented foundation
Right.
and build up from it belt by belt throughout the book.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
cool. I
Right.
think
But
also, oh, go ahead, please.
well, a lot of times, and when you do any of the Tony Robbins or all these things, they all start with like, you got to go into your past, right?
Yeah.
Even therapy, you got to go back into your past and clear up that shit because it's holding you back.
Yeah.
Like that's where all the chipping away has come from. And if we don't get clear with it now and accept it, like it's only going to hold you back in the future.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the first landmark thing I ever went to was everybody was a hot sobbing mess. I was like, what are we doing here? It's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I totally get that. I think another interesting thing about confidence that I would love to hear your thoughts on is that sometimes we try to put confidence in a one size fits all or one definition fits all.
Right.
But confidence is it's a very personal thing. But we try to make it seem like, I think society, the internet, a number of different voices sometimes make confidence feel like this is what confidence is and what it should be for you.
Right.
Where do you fall on that? And what are your thoughts on that? Because as someone who does drink a lot of self-help Kool-Aid, there are very similar messaging in a lot of those books.
Yeah.
But what I hear you saying, and a little bit of yours, is you're kind of allowing some of that. What are your personal things that came out of your shit list that you bring to the table, and how can you step into that? I'd be curious to hear. I'm now answering your own question for you. But I'm going to make you answer it still. But confidence is a deeply personal journey. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think you're absolutely right. And that's kind of why I named the first keynote and now book, The Art of Badassery, because I feel like badassery is a term that is it's almost kind of vague, right? Everyone has their own definition of it. And under that, feeling badass. Yeah. To me, that's like feeling confident, putting myself out there, living my dreams, or at least going after my dreams. That to me, that's pretty badass. And it feels like you're confident doing that. But I do think confidence is it's just a muscle, right? That we have to practice over time, and nobody is either confident or not. Like it's a range, it's a scale, it's a sliding scale, and it's going to go up and down depending on the day or even the hour sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite quotes is from the wise old sage Anonymous. And Anonymous once said that happiness is only what?
You know that guy?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Good. But yeah. We used to play croquet in my backyard. So Bobby Anonymous. But someone once said that the happiness is only a place that you can visit, but the smartest people go there often. And I a lot of times think about confidence that way. We're not, to say that you are 100% confident in every single part of your life is absurd. That's an unrealistic goal, and one that you should rewrite as soon as you can, so that you can give yourself grace and whatnot. And I think, confidence is, if people come up to me, and I'm sure the same thing for you after our speeches, people come up to me like, how are you so confident? Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And I tell people, it's like, you literally just saw me at the peak of my confidence.
Right.
You just saw the peak, right? Like right now, as you and I are talking about, it's changed.
Yeah.
Right. I'm now self-aware. I'm now this, and things are coming up. And so, yeah, it is fascinating that it's a place that we can visit. We should visit it more often because we deserve to. And realizing the things that are keeping us from going there more often, I think, is what your book is talking about, and work worth doing.
Yes. I have a question for you, and then I'll answer.
I'm not interested in that. No. Go ahead.
Could you name one thing, practice or book or anything, that has made the biggest difference in your own confidence?
I have a cliche answer to that, but that's okay. Things are cliches because they're undeniably true. Okay. But Tina is a big person in there. Like my wife. And she
helps you feel more confident. Is that what
yeah, I think other people see our greatness before we do, and that doesn't make them wrong. But we have to remember that it doesn't make them wrong. And it's taken a minute for me to realize that maybe Tina's not wrong, which has been really hard to admit for multiple complicated reasons. But still, I think that's been a big piece of it. I think Brene Brown's work has been I think that if her work doesn't get as much of the output as it does get, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about what I love talking about. Right. Like in talking about authenticity and vulnerability and leadership and things like that. Right. If she doesn't come before me, not that she's the first person to ever say it,
Right.
but the way that she's been so widely digested and also contested, but has opened the door for me to be able to talk more about, I think, what I talk about, and feel seen in some of that work. Is there a part of me that wishes I could have been that person? Hell yeah. But I didn't do the work that she did. Right. I just did it. And so, respect it. And so, but yeah, I think so. I think that's something like reading Daring Greatly. I also would say, when I went through my divorce a number of years ago, I didn't know
that about you.
There you go. Fun fact. I holed up in this Airbnb that was just a small A-frame in Vermont. And I just dove into meditation because like I need to do work. Because I hurt someone who didn't deserve to be hurt. And I was also falling in love with someone new. And I was really excited about that. But it was all the guilt, the shame, the everything. And I was like, I'm a piece of shit. And so there were some moments in that let me know that I was allowed to feel emotions that I didn't think I was ever allowed to feel. I don't know if I ever felt anger and could name it as anger and realized I was allowed to feel angry about something until being in Vermont that week. And so just allowing yourself to step into like, I'm allowed to feel things. So I think those are three things that, which is more than what you asked for, but yeah.
The more the better, right? The more tools, the better. That's what I say. Sure. But mine is the same as yours. Actually, that meditation piece. I was going to jump in and say it, but I wanted to hear your answer first. In the last 3 or 4 years, I would say I feel the most I go to that confident place more often than ever before. And sure, there are plenty of reasons. I'm getting older. You start to care what other people think less.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And lots of other reasons, but that is the biggest reason is a dedicated morning meditation practice where I just go in, go deep, sit there, and like literally feel so much better because of it. So
yeah. And most people who've never tried meditation either don't because it's like that's too woo-woo, or they don't because they don't think they can. And that's where that was the camp that I was in pre-trying it. And because I have ADHD, I have anxiety, I got a lot of stuff going on that can easily take me out of a meditative state.
Right. But even more the reason to do it.
Right. 100%. Yeah, exactly. And so, and people are like, well, I can't just sit and think about nothing for an hour. I was like, well, great. Don't start with 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what it started. And truth be told, like I still haven't gotten above, I think the longest I've gone is 12 minutes.
Okay.
And that's okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that doesn't matter, that those 5 minutes are valuable, that those, that sweet British man on Headspace, he's got my back no matter how long I'm with him. And I really appreciate that about him.
That's amazing. That's a good, okay. So you use Headspace. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Headspace. I know Calm is anher really popular one, and there's a whole bunch of them. So
yeah. Insight Timer is mine, but I just use like the ambient sounds that on there.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this. I don't know if you're loyal to an airline, but Delta, great. So Delta now has Peloton on their thing. And so you can, if you bring your own bike, you can put it on the plane. No, I'm kidding. But they have like little exercises you can do where it's even calf raises, but more importantly than that, they have just little meditations. And it's lovely.
I saw that.
So,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely becoming more mainstream, but again, I think it's important for folks to share the actual benefits. Cause again, like you can sit there and go, yeah, well, meditation, it'll help me de-stress and blah, blah, blah. But hey, it'll help increase your confidence. What? Like, I don't think those two things are usually connected. And for me, that's why I just really want to share that. And it's a whole chapter in my book, not just meditation, but going quiet, going within, trusting your gut, listening. And that has, like I said, boosted my confidence. Why? Because you feel more at peace. You feel more at ease. You're more intentional. You're willing to take more risk. All these different things come as a result of that.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else is awesome, Jennifer Cassetta? You. And I cannot thank you enough for kicking it in the diner. Your book, The Art of Badassery, Unleash Your Mojo with Wisdom of the Dojo, is available for pre-order right now on Amazon. I hope that y'all will get on this, get a little pre-order action. Just you can see her XBL dopeness. And it's just been so cool getting to know you more, friend. I knew little small pieces of your story. It's been so cool getting to connect the dots and also just hear your brilliance. And thanks for hanging out in the diner with me.
Thank you. What are you ordering? You didn't say.
I'm a pancake man. Pancake man through and through. I got some chocolate chip pancakes earlier this week, actually. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And thanks everyone for listening. I so, again, appreciate taking up the space.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. Y'all, that was my time with Jennifer Cassetta. Wow, that one went to some really cool places that I did not expect, but thoroughly enjoyed and was blown away by. What a story on 9/11. As I mentioned, many of us know where we were that day, but to hear where she was and what was going on is fascinating. But the safety of the dojo and what she has managed to turn that into is beautiful. Confidence is something that a lot of us struggle with. And I find that having more and more conversations with our peers makes us feel less alone around it. And so our conversations are powerful as we try to grow and step into our badassery, to use her term. And it's just so cool that she spent this time with us. And so let's keep having better conversations, my friends. So do me a favor and punch small talk in the face by asking better questions. We'll catch y'all next time in the diner. Be well.